Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and Riley Blake has come out with a new fabric line called Sunshine and Dewdrops. It's perfect for a beautiful spring day, like today. The fabric has all these blues, yellows, and clean whites. And the fabric comes with these panels. So you can get in the dark blue, the light blue, and a white. And what we're looking at with this panel are birds. So we have 8 big birds along this panel. So we can cut them up individual or use that whole panel on its own. I will be making a small lap quilt with all of these fabrics. So I'm going to need 1 panel and 9 fat quarters. I'll be taking that panel with the birds, and I'm going to need 6 out of the 8 birds. And I'm going to cut them into 10-inch squares. And I'm going to turn those 10-inch squares into this quilt block. So I will have 6 of these quilt blocks, and I'm going to have some sashing around them. And that quilt will equal 33.5 inches by 49.5 inches. This is a very simple block to make. It starts off with that big 10-inch cut square, so we are getting big blocks which will make that quilt go together very quickly. And the piecing is very easy. We have square blocks, rectangular blocks, and half square triangles. And that's all we're going to need. So to make this, we are going to need 6 of these center blocks at 10 inches. We're going to need a total of 24 3-inch squares and divide them up on the corners. These side pieces are 5 inches by 3 inches, and we will also need 24. And for the half square triangles, we are going to need a total of 48. And I'm going to be able to get those from 4 different fat quarters. So I've chosen 2 yellows and 2 blues, and have made 48 of these little half square triangles. So to start with, we're going to need 24 yellow squares and 24 blue squares cut at 4 inches. To make those half square triangles, I'm going to place right sides together, a yellow and a blue, draw a line down the center, and then stitch a 1/4 inch on each side. Once you do that, you're going to be able to trim apart on that line. Press the fabric to the darker side, and now trim this down to a 3-inch square. And we're going to need a total of 48 of these squares. Once I have all of the pieces cut out, then I'm going to be able to sew them together. I do like to lay them out in this format, and that way I can make sure they're going in the direction that I want. It's only 6 blocks, so it's going to go together very quickly. So I'm going to sew those half square triangles onto that rectangle on all 4 sides. As we're sewing these units together, we need to just keep aware of these half square triangles so that they're coming into the corners. And you'll be able to see when you are stitching them that you're going to end up with a triangle. If you have one twisted, then you know that it's not going to work out. And it won't matter what way that triangle goes. We can now sew the top and the bottom onto our blocks. So we have 6 of each unit. And use a 1/4 inch seam allowance and sew those together. Once that top and bottom is stitched on, we can stitch these cornerstones onto the units. Once those ends are put on, we're going to be able to sew those onto the center unit. Be sure that those yellow points are pointing in. If not, you will have a different look. And if you like changing things up, it's not such a bad look. But I do want those star points, so I'm going to sew them on so the points are all coming in. We now have a 15-inch block. We started with a 10-inch square, 3-inch corners, 3-inch half square triangles, a 3 by 5-inch center, and that block was done. Now, of course, we can make more and add them together, but I did 6, so I'm going to do 2, 2, and 2. And I'm going to put some sashing in between. Because I'm using fat quarters, my center sashing is going to be different than that outside sashing. So I am going to lay them out. The inside sashing, I am going to need 7 pieces, 2 inches by 15 inches. So they're going to go down the center. And I do have 2-inch little blocks to go in between. For the outside, I need 10 2-inch by 15 inches to go along the outside. And I did duplicate that blue for those corner blocks. So I would recommend laying it out the way you like it, and then just pin those on and sew them all together. And that way you make sure you don't have your birds all twisted, and it stays in order. With the sashing put on, we do end up with a secondary pattern. We do end up with another star. So we have the star around the large block and a star around that center stone. Now, if you really want those stars to be noticeable, you could exchange that dark blue and the yellow. The darker color means that star is going to show up a little bit more. That dark color is really emphasizing this shape. So depending on what you want to emphasize, you can change those colors. However you do it, it is a pretty pattern, and it's quick and easy because we get to start with these big 10-inch squares. So it's a nice long quilt, which would be perfect for cuddling under the couch. From a distance, you can see that beautiful soft yellow star, and that blue is definitely a focal point. But it does look like a circle underneath the rest of the fabric. So choosing fabrics for a pattern like this really can be changed in many different ways. So you really don't have to worry about what fabric you're putting with that center square. They're all going to look nice. You're just going to see the star more, the chains more, that circle more, depending on what fabric you're going to use. So we were able to use that panel and cut it into 10-inch squares. And then choose 9 fat quarters, and we have a nice big lap quilt. I do hope you give it a try, and thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and I do have a newsletter, all under Sew Very Easy. I'll put a link in the description. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.